Ready for another riveting edition of the Red, Gold, and Bold podcast with you as always, Jeff Chadiha from the NFL Network, NFL.com. It is Sam McDowell from the Kansas City Star. My name is Soren Petro from Sports Radio 810 WHB as we talk game by game. We're going to make our way through the Chiefs schedule. Win, lose, win, lose, win, 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 win. For Sam, Captain Optimism, probably 16, 17 wins. I already saw one of the comments has it, let me guess, Petro 13-4, Sam 12-5, Jeff 10-7. No, wrong.
Yeah, not quite.
Not quite. We are breaking it down here on the Red, Gold, and Bold. Each and every game of the Chiefs schedule. How will this season line up? We do it right now on the Red, Gold, and Bold.
You are listening to the Red, Gold, and Bold podcast, the most in-depth analysis of the Kansas City Chiefs on planet Earth, breaking down the Chiefs like no one else can. Red, Gold, and Bold is hosted by Jeff Chadiha, Sam McDowell, and Soren Petro. Jeff Chadiha is a senior columnist and on-air personality for the NFL Network and NFL.com. Sam McDowell is a columnist for the Kansas City Star. Soren Petro is the afternoon drive host of the program on Sports Radio 810 WHB in Kansas City. The Red, Gold, and Bold podcast is proudly brought to you by Gann Asphalt and Concrete, Kansas City's nationally recognized full-service paving and pavement maintenance contractor, making parking lot problems disappear in Kansas City since 1994. Free consultations, no commissions, in-house crews, and every project comes with a written warranty. Find them online at GannAsphalt.com or call 816-484-3338. Gann Asphalt and Concrete, one contractor, all things parking lot. Now, here are the hosts of the Best Chiefs podcast, Jeff Chadiha, Sam McDowell, and Soren Petro.
Thank you very much, Curtis. Off and running here on a Friday. Remember, if you are catching us via the podcast, appreciate it, but you can also be a part of the conversation. Tommy Moe already taking shots in there. So jump on in. You can be in the chat room and have your voice heard here on the Red, Gold, and Bold podcast. That is 10 a.m. 9 a.m. Some people got some texts early, like maybe we were going to go a little bit early today. We're not. 10 a.m. on a Friday Central Time to join us on the Red, Gold, and Bold podcast, 9:30 p.m. on Tuesdays. Guys, we always like to check in on what we learn from the exercise, picking wins and losses. We had already done a record, and now you could change with new information. Everybody has a right to change their opinion. So knowing that you kind of already figured out a record and going through the process of going game by game, Jeff, what did you learn from the whole event?
I learned they're not going to be 15-2.
Okay.
That's the first thing I learned.
Okay.
I think that'd be a tough bet to make, but I think overall, look, I think it's this season, just as seasons past, there's going to be some stretches in there where you're trying to figure out how, is this team healthy enough to deal with this? Are they experienced enough to deal with some of this stuff? Are they talented enough to deal with some of these opportunities, some of these challenges? And so, look, we know the Chiefs are battle tested and obviously the best team in the league for over the last 7-8 years. But yeah, I think they're going to have a lot tougher road this year.
Okay. Grinding through it game by game. Sam, what was your takeaway?
Well, the Chiefs are favored in 16 of their 17 games this year. So I think this exercise to me is different actually than picking their season full record. I realize that sounds contradictory, but really it's not, because I think when you pick their season record, you're saying, okay, a couple 60% chance games, and therefore I'm going to pick them to go 1-1 over the long haul. When you pick game by game, you're doing it differently. So inherently, unless you're picking 16-1, you are picking upsets throughout your schedule. And one thing we didn't talk about with the schedule overall is the first half of the schedule is a lot more tough than a lot tougher than the second half. Yeah. And I mentioned that they're favored in 16 of the 17 games. In their first 10 games, they're underdogs in 1, and 5 of those times they're favored, it's by a field goal or less. So the first half of the schedule is going to be much more difficult to navigate than the back half.
My takeaway was and maybe I just don't remember the panic that sets in as a Chiefs fan, right? As a guy who does root for the football team, try to put that off to the side when we do these things. I'm more nervous about the schedule now after going game by game than I was initially. Like the further I go, the more I think, wow, that could be tough. That could be tough. That could be tough.
Wow.
Right? Like I came away feeling a little bit more apprehensive about the schedule. I mean, I was changing wins and losses, which, and I think most of us, Sam, you kind of talked about how you do it. You look at a game, you look at a couple of games, and you're like, okay, Eagles and Ravens in the first four, I think they'll split those, right? Like I think they'll both come down to the wire, and the Chiefs will get one of the two. It's kind of how you build what your record is. To come back and go game by game, well, we all would agree this is a fool's errand, right? Because you don't know. You have I feel more comfortable. Does everybody agree? You feel more comfortable about picking the record than you do about this is the game they will win or lose.
How they get
right?
there.
Yeah. All right. So with that, and so Tommy, in advance for 2 months from now, when you're like, you dumbass, you said they were going to win or lose this game. Up yours. That's an in advance up yours to Tommy. Just because I know he's making notes to come back firing on us. So I want to be clear about that. But and Tommy's a friend of the podcast. If anybody's new, like, what are they beating up on this guy for? If you knew Tommy, you'd know. But I'm more pessimistic. It scares me more as a fan that there are more landmines in here than people may realize. All right, let's start with it. Chargers, Brazil. What are you feeling, Sam? You want to lead us off?
Sure. I've got the Chiefs starting 1-0. Okay. I think there's going to be a lot of hype around the Chargers this year, and I'm not saying it's unwarranted, but when you really review the Chargers last year, they had the fourth easiest schedule in the NFL in terms of DVOA, and in terms of just flat out statistics, I mean, factual, objective stuff, they played 7 games last year against teams that won at least 10 games. They were 2-5 against teams that won 10 games last year, and both of those wins were against the Broncos. Like, I don't think this team was quite as good as people gave them credit for last year. That number one scoring defense, I think, was assisted by a really weak schedule. So I think you could see a situation where the Chargers might be a slightly better football team, but finish with the worst record. But I've got the Chiefs beating them in the opener.
Okay, interesting. Where you sit, Jeff, on this Brazil game, and any new challenges that it presents by being, in Brazil?
Well, I think when you're starting a year off in a foreign country, it's a little different vibe than you've played a few games and you make the trip, you've got into a groove a little bit. So I do think that for both teams, it's going to be a bit of a challenge. I do agree with what Sam says. I think the Chargers are going to be a better team, but they'll face tougher opposition. But it's hard to pick against the Chiefs in week one. And so I got them winning this game as well for that reason. I think they've only lost, one game now? I think in Andy Reid's time here, in the one opener, right? The Tennessee game back in
Detroit. They lost. I can't believe you don't remember Detroit.
Come on.
Of all the ones to forget.
Yeah, the Chris Jones game. So it's 2. It's 2. I was trying to rack my brain there. I know this, so there aren't that many. And so picking against the Chiefs in week one is always tough, certainly against a division rival that you know well. Foreign country or not, I like the Chiefs in the season opener.
How do you forget your beloved Lions? I mean, do you just erase, you're just so beaten down?
Yeah. Well, they're not beloved, first of all.
I also noticed
I like them. Yeah.
Also noticed you called it the Chris Jones game and not the Kadarius Toney game.
Yeah. Oh, was it the kid? Yeah. Well, I forgot about him. He was easy to forget about, Kadarius Toney.
Yeah, I think that was part of the equation was the Kadarius Toney is why a Lions fan doesn't remember it because they don't want to come to grips with the fact that that one was pretty much just given to us, right?
Yeah.
One Chiefs fan's opinion of how that game went. Yeah, I got them winning this one as well, just because I think Andy Reid is so good at getting it started for the reasons you said. I mean, what does that make him now? 12-2 in openers and Chiefs. How many years? 13 to. We're now going into 25.
Yeah.
So that would be
2013. Yeah, it'd be 13. So 12-1. Or 11-2.
11 or 10-2 because this would be the 13th, right? Does that sound right?
Yeah.
If we do the math real quick. So I'm Look, I do think this is a scary game because I think Jim Harbaugh's a heck of a coach, and I think if anybody's going to hand him a loss, I can see Harbaugh with some ground and pound. The Chiefs' problems on the left side of the offensive line, and turnovers happen, and the Chargers just sit on the ball and grind it out. But Chiefs are pretty good coming out. I'm optimistic that things are going to be better on the left side of the offensive line. You know, when he plays, Bosa's a good player. He's not there, so Khalil Mack's not getting any younger. So I'm with you. I love the point about their defense may have been a little bit overrated last year, Sam, just based upon the opponents. And I think, you know, a lot of what I like about the Chargers is I think their offense is going to take a step. So I'll take the Chiefs to get the win, 1-0 as well. All right, back home, 3:25 on Fox on a Sunday. Sam, should still be nice and warm. What do you think? Eagles coming to town. The Chiefs are a 1.5-point favorite in that one right now.
Yeah, I've got the Chiefs. I think this would be a spot where it already immediately differs between picking the overall record and just going game by game. Because I think overall record, you say, okay, odds are that they win one of the first two. But this game's going to really matter to the Chiefs. I think it's probably going to matter more to the Chiefs than it is the Eagles. And I think the Eagles lost more than even we've talked about on this podcast. I mean, lost 4 starters defensively last year, guys who made an impact in that Super Bowl.
Oh, hang on. I have pounded that drum. How loud do I have to shout it?
Which starters?
They lost 2 defensive linemen, and they lost 2 defensive backs. Right? Am I wrong?
Yeah, I mean, I would like a little bit more specific.
And they even lost their 4th and 5th corner too, like or 3rd and 4th. Like they lost more on their secondary. They had, I think they've lost 6 guys that had 300 snaps or more from their defense last year.
Yeah, I think
is that specific enough, Sam? Did I check your box, or you know I struggle with names? Is it just all about names?
Well, I think. Look, what I was going to say is, I think where the Eagles lost most is depth. So I think they're actually a team you'd rather get late in the year than in week 2, because they thrived on their depth last year of not really taking a step back when they did face some adversity. This year, they're not quite as equipped to do that. It's the same conversation I had last year about the Chiefs defense when I said they didn't go sign anybody last off season. How are they going to hold up when they have an injury? They were pretty healthy a year ago, at least defensively. So the Eagles, I think, could struggle more late in the year than they do in week 2. But like I said, I think this game will really matter to the Chiefs. And I think we've seen historically that does matter to Patrick Mahomes and the performances he has.
Okay. Jeff?
I got Eagles. I think that it's true that they've lost players, but they've had replacements for those players who were playing last year. So the guys who are coming in have been contributors, especially at the edge rusher position with Brandon Graham and Josh Sweat leaving. You bring in Jalix Hunt, who had a sack in the Super Bowl. You bring in Nolan Smith, who has played a lot of football already for them. Darius Slay leaving. Quinyon Mitchell's the number 1 corner now. Cooper DeJean moves up. Keely Ringo, who's an underrated guy from Georgia who's been there for a while, can play. They're going to be fine on defense. And really, I like them in this game because of their offense. I feel like Saquon Barkley early this season is going to be fresher. I think they still pose the same concerns with their receivers, with Jalen Hurts moving around that big offensive line. I think the Eagles are going to win. I think the Eagles are still the better team, and they're going to win the game.
I have gone back and forth on this one. It's been a win. It's been a loss. It's one of the ones that obviously, for obvious reasons, when it's a 1.5, that could go either ways. I've settled in on a win against the Eagles because I have trumpeted that I think the Eagles lost more than people are giving it credit for. So if I then turn around and go, yeah, but I got the Eagles winning in Kansas City, that's going to look a little foolish. So I don't love this, but I'm putting them down for a win. And I do think that the Chiefs are pretty good in the payback situations. And I also think that there is a chance. I think the Nick Sirianni thing, giving Nick Sirianni a pile of money is putting a bunch of kindling around and then holding a match over it. Like there is no way that Nick Sirianni gets to the end of that contract as the Philadelphia Eagles coach. It will be incendiary at some point. It will blow up at some point. And I just think it could come out of the gates. I wonder how cocky and arrogant he is going to be equipped with a giant guaranteed contract. And I think that could be a big problem. I think at some point he'll lose his crap. And Who knows? Maybe it happens in camp early, and this is a combustible mix. They were talking about firing him 3-4 weeks into last year. Mid-season last year, they were talking about firing him. So I don't see where, this thing is just going to be a smooth ride in Philadelphia.
Look at how they started the season the last 3 years under him. I think they've lost 3 games in the first 10 weeks. They start fast.
Yeah, I mean,
they may be crazy. So they win games.
What were they 1-1 or 2-2 last year to get started?
Yeah, I think 2-2. They had that sort of miraculous. Was it a field goal block against Cleveland at home?
Yeah.
That right before half. I think it was last play before half. They kind of kickstarted their season, really.
Yeah. Then they went on a 14-game win streak or something.
Yeah,
like that.
they were champions. I mean, how many times
they were 10-1 when they melted down the year earlier?
Yeah, how many? But I think the meltdown a year earlier speaks to what could happen.
No, I agree with you. Yeah.
So I've got them for a win as well. All right, at the Giants, I think is a scarier game than a lot of others. It's a trap game, Jeff. Coming off a big game, letdown situation coming off the Eagles with a big look ahead on the other side with a home game with the Ravens. Sam, where do you got this one?
I've got him at 3-0.
Okay.
I agree. I mean, Jeff mentioned this already, so I'm probably cutting into what he's planning on saying. But Abdul Carter, Brian Burns, Kayvon Thibodeau on the edges, and you still have Dexter Lawrence, and they drafted Darius Alexander too, who I think could have been a Chiefs target if he wasn't 25 years old coming out of the draft. But when you're looking at this year, 25 years old looks pretty good for a rookie when you're just talking about their production for this year. So, and that's what we're talking about for this Chiefs game. So I do think this game will be lower scoring, but I still don't have any confidence in the Giants offense. So
Okay.
I've got the Chiefs at 3-0.
Yeah, big test, certainly for the left side of the offensive line. Jeff, you've noted it, the problems here in past podcasts. What do you think, though? Are you going to put a win or a loss there for the Chiefs?
Oh, it's a win. They're still a more talented team, but it would have for them to lose this game. It would have to be like that Broncos game a couple years ago when they had 5 turnovers and Russell Wilson. Mahomes was sick and Russell Wilson made some plays, or even the Colts game the year before that, or 2 years before when Chris Jones did that late penalty. Like, it's just the quarterback play is so suspect that it's hard to see them really being functional and effective throughout the entire game. But I do think that their defensive line is going to cause problems for the Chiefs. I'm not as optimistic about that left side until they actually are playing football and hitting people and doing things that you can evaluate.
At one point, I had the Chiefs 3-1 in their first 4 with a loss at the Giants, right? I also considered taking them down to 2-2, losing at the Giants and losing to either the Ravens or Eagles. In the end, I went a little more traditional, a little more based on the point spread. I've got them beating the Giants. But I think the fact that it's 6.5 against a team that wasn't very good, and the fact that they won't put the early line at 7 already speaks to the fact that they think there's a little bit of a chance. Like the odds makers like, this could happen, because I think there'll be people who try to tease down. Some places won't take early lines like this with tease downs, but tease this down to where the Chiefs just have to win, and the fact that they won't go on up to 7, I think, is of note. But I'll go ahead and have the Chiefs winning there at 3-0, which brings us to a big one, Sam. The Ravens, 325 on CBS right now. The Chiefs are a 1.5-point favorite at home against the Ravens. Let me guess, this is your first loss.
Yeah, I've got the Ravens winning this game. I think that the tough part of our predictions overall, especially in the first half of the season, is the unknown with Rashee Rice. We went through this a year ago, and he was available during the first half. But when you go back and watch the opener, the reason the Chiefs win that game against the opener is because of Rashee Rice. And it was the first time we saw, okay, is this offense going to fixate on him rather than Travis Kelce necessarily for the season? And it looked like it could be a way that the Chiefs function. They don't have Rashee Rice. I think this game becomes particularly difficult. But even so, I look at what every team did in the offseason, and I think the Ravens are going to be the biggest contender for the Chiefs not getting to the Super Bowl this year. So you've got to pick them to lose somewhere. I think this September is too difficult for them to go 4-0, and I think the most likely game they lose is Baltimore.
Okay. How about you, Jeff? Where do you see this one?
I have been winning against Baltimore.
Wow. Wow. I've got to now make a change. I already had you down for a loss on that one.
Yeah. No, there's some losses elsewhere in there that I think you may be more surprised about. But no, I think that the Ravens have only beaten them once with Lamar Jackson as the quarterback. And that was like a funky Clyde Edwards-Helaire fumble late in the game type situation. And so I always feel like the Ravens take this game way too seriously, get way too hyped up, and put too much pressure on themselves to win it. I think if you're playing them later on in the season, it might be a different story. But I think at this point, with the hype and all the, pomp and circumstance around it, I think they're going to fall into the same trap, and they're not going to be ready for. The Chiefs are going to be more prepared to play the game even keeled and to win it. So I like them there to be 3-1.
Okay, I've got them for the loss here. I think it's a really, because of the letdown factor on the Giants, that's a really tough 4-game schedule. If they are 4-0, look out, right? Like, then the left side of the offensive line is doing really well, and they're looking like hell on wheels. But I don't think that's going to happen. In fact, where would you be more inclined to think they come out of this 2-2, or they come 4-0? Which is more likely out of the first 4, Sam? 2-2 or 4-0?
Coin flip. I think probably, yeah, I think that's probably a pretty good bet. Like, those would probably be both listed at -110, I think.
Okay, Jeff?
Probably 2-2.
I think 2-2.
Okay.
I agree.
Yeah.
I've got them losing this one just because I don't see them. I think 2-2 is more likely than 4-0. And I don't think that's a death sentence if they go 2-2, but it is a really, really tough stretch of the schedule. I don't think there's any denying that it is a tough way to get things started if you're the Kansas City Chiefs, and we'll see the first quarter of the schedule is done. We break down each and every one of the Chiefs games right after you hear from our friends from Gann Asphalt and Concrete. Gann Asphalt and Concrete, proudly serving the greater Kansas City area. Nationally recognized full-service paving and pavement maintenance contractor. Locally owned and making parking lot problems disappear in Kansas City since 1994. Let Gann educate you about the most cost-effective way to solve your parking lot problems. Free consultations, no commissions, in-house crews. Every project comes with a written warning. Gann Asphalt keeps your parking lot safer and helps you and your business avoid unnecessary delays and costly expenses. Find Gann online at GannAsphalt.com or call 816-484-3338. Gann Asphalt and Concrete. One contractor, all things parking lot.
Big moves, bigger vibes. If you haven't heard, Besame Wellness is now Suede Cannabis. Our colors and name may have changed, but you'll still experience the same great service on top of better deals, longer hours, and faster delivery. Smithville, Liberty, Kansas City, Warrensburg, and North Kansas City. No matter which location you visit, you'll feel right at home. Find the location nearest you and shop online at SuadeCannabis.com. Life should be dope. Let's make it happen. Suede Cannabis.
We're at week 5, gentlemen. Week 5 is where we are right now. The Chiefs go to the Jaguars on October 6th. This is a Monday night football game at 7:15. Right now, the Chiefs are just a 4.5-point favorite at Jacksonville. Sam, pull the upset here. Do you have the guts?
This was the most surprising line. When I looked at all the Chiefs lines, I can't figure out why this line is not at least 5.5, if not 6. The Jaguars had the worst defense in the AFC by a mile last year. Like, this isn't just a commentary on what you think of Trevor Lawrence. Their defense was terrible last year. They really didn't do all that much for their defense. I mean, Travis Hunter comes in.
Travis Hunter is going to do it all. I don't know if you know this. 2,000 yards receiving, lead the league in interceptions. It's all on Travis Hunter.
Like, this is just not a good football team. And it's the reason I didn't like the Travis Hunter deals, because that deal implies that you think you're close. This, to me, is not a team that was close. I've got the Chiefs at 4-1.
Okay. Win there. Jeff, what do you got?
Oh, it's a win. It's as you like to call it, a unleash the fury kind of game.
There you go.
Yeah, like, it could be an ugly situation down there. The only thing I would say about Jacksonville games in Jacksonville, that it seems like Chiefs always have someone get hurt down there. And so that may be part of the odds makers thinking that maybe there's going to be a big injury happen. But I think if they're healthy, they're going to walk in there and roll through Jacksonville. I'm not impressed at all with what Jacksonville has done.
Yeah, I'm with you guys. I'm with Sam. I like everything you guys have both said, and I'll underscore the point that Sam made about the spread. The only thing that gives me pause is that the spread isn't higher, and that always makes me nervous. I'm like, what do they know? They were a playoff team a couple of years ago. They do have a quarterback who's not spectacular, but isn't a boob. They ought to be better. But I'm with you. The more I look at their roster, the more I go, no. And I think if you like the Chiefs this year, then you better bet this right now. Load up, because I think come game time, this could be 9.5 when it rolls around. If the Chiefs get off to the 3-1 start that we've got, I think this number will be bigger than that 4.5. All right, we've got Jeff's Lions coming in on a Sunday night to take on the Kansas City Chiefs. The Chiefs are 3-point favorites. Sam, what do you got?
I've got the Chiefs. I've got them at 5-1. The Lions have, I think, among the contending teams, it's probably them and the Chiefs that have the most consistent roster from a year ago. The Lions is probably even more consistent to what they had a year ago. But I still think you could argue the Lions lost more than anybody this offseason because they lost both coordinators, and both coordinators are in this like Steve Spagnuolo role as, hey, you take care of the defense, you take care of the offense. The head coach doesn't run either. Like, they're replacing a lot. And the Ben Johnson loss in particular, I think, is a real loss. And I'm eager to see what the Lions do. You know, maybe I'm not giving their assistants enough credit. And who is it? John Morton? Is that who
John
it is?
Morton. Yeah.
Is that's taken over as the OC? Yeah. Maybe, but I need to see it first before I just assume the Lions offense is going to roll the way it was rolling under Ben Johnson. So I've got the Chiefs beating them.
Okay. Jeff, what do you got your Lions doing here?
I got them winning. I like the Lions winning this game.
But I don't have to change the L I had already put down there.
Yeah, I told you, you're going to have to get that whiteout going on that sheet you got over there. Sam makes a lot of the valid points about the coordinator situation. The one thing I would say about Ben Johnson was he wasn't a coordinator when Dan Campbell got there initially. They went and got him off the staff and moved him up, got rid of Deuce Staley, and his career took off. I've always been impressed by the staff that Dan Campbell put together down there. I think it's one of the deepest, most impressive groups in the league, and I imagine the guys he's putting in place are going to be good coaches. Now, it's a bet, but I think everything else there, talent-wise, I think they're more talented than the Chiefs. I think that their run game is going to give the Chiefs problems. I think if Jared Goff is coached correctly and doesn't turn the ball over, he should have a big game throwing to St. Brown and Jamison Williams and Aiden Hutchinson coming back in the fold again. It's a good time to see how those tackles hold up. And so I think the way that the Lions play football is going to be tough on the Chiefs in this game.
I think that's
You're still debating this one.
No, I'm not. I'm debating on how I want to attack it. I'm debating on trying to say something different than what you guys have said. I think the Lions are good, but I do agree that Dan Campbell's been a lot better than I ever thought he would be. I mean, I thought he was a clown show. And
we all did.
Yeah, I mean, but I think it's important to keep underscoring that I've always said that winning the press conference doesn't mean you're going to be great, and losing it doesn't mean you're going to suck. But if you lose it, you're more likely to suck than winning it. You're being a translation of being a very good coach. And so it's amazing what he's done. And I do agree. I think he's a really good coach. He does put a lot on his coordinators. I'm totally fine with that. I think John Harbaugh does that. I think there are a number of coaches that are like that, but it means those guys better be good. So I don't think the Lions will fall apart, but I could see 10-7. I could see 11-6. I all those things I think are distinct possibilities, and I'm not going to bet on. This is the big moment. It's even bigger with college coaches when they have to start changing over that staff. Like, they got their group. Like, when they're on especially when you get that first head coaching job, you've been out there talking to the other assistants in Birmingham and at the combine. Like, you have a pretty good feel for who those guys are. You get elevated up to the head coach. You're going to league meetings. You're talking about rules. You're not over in Gruntville where you learn who the other guys are that are really good assistant coaches. And I think it is harder than people realize to keep that thing going. So I'll bet against the Lions this year. I will almost undoubtedly bet under on the Lions number this year, because I think you can pretty much hang your hat on that. There will be problems when a coach for the first time has to change coordinators, and he's having to change both. So I've got the Chiefs winning against the Detroit Lions. Raiders are next, noon game on CBS. They get their first noon game of the year in week 7. We're on October 19th right now. If you're scoring at home, Chiefs are a 9.5-point favorite at home against the Raiders. The Raiders win total is 6.5. Do we need to spend a lot of time on this, or do you potentially have an upset here, Sam?
Yeah, if you're a team that earns the Chiefs a home noon game, then that should speak to the result, right? I've got the Chiefs. They're 6-1 now in my schedule.
What a great way to put it. All right, how about you, Jeff?
The Chiefs win the game, but I do think it will be a more closely contested game than in years past with the coach and the quarterback over there.
It's been years past. I mean, it was a fumble. Was the last play of the game last year, and the Raiders beat him the year before.
That's a fair point. Yeah, I better change my pick then. Yeah,
I'm going to take the Chiefs. I do think that the Raiders will present a bigger challenge, and if you have a bad turnover day against them, I think the Raiders can get you. I think that they're not going to play stupid football. You're going to have to actually go out and physically beat them. So, from that standpoint, I think the Raiders will be a more difficult out, but I'm not going to get excited and pick them to win in Arrowhead. So I think if they show any signs of life, then that'll raise the elevation of the game, and the Chiefs are more likely to win. So I got to win against the Raiders. All right, big one against the Commanders, 7:15 ESPN, Monday Night Football. Chiefs 3.5-point favorites right now. Sam, what do you got?
Well, I'm really glad I mentioned how tough the first half of the schedule is compared to the second half, because I've got the Chiefs again, and I've got them at 7-1 now.
I was going to bring that up. That
steaming towards 15-2.
Well,
something got me off track because I was going to tell you, like, hey, let's follow along here, because Sam pointed out how tough the early part of the schedule is, and do we have a string of losses coming? Is that where it starts here with Washington?
No, I've got the Chiefs. I think, just as I cautioned with CJ Stroud a year ago, I'd caution the assumption that Jaden Daniels is just going to be even better in his second year than he was his first year. I always think the second year is the most important year for a quarterback, because now the tape's out. We're going to see how teams adjust to him. I think those adjustments against him are going to be most clear on third down plays. They're probably going to try and take away his legs. He's got a good arm, but it's still going to be an adjustment for him. I think he probably is more likely to make the adjustment from year 1 to year 2 than CJ Stroud was, but it's still going to be a thing. And so I don't think we should just assume that this guy is just going to be an MVP candidate this year.
Yeah, I think that's a great point about the drawback. Where do you see it, Jeff? I'll bet you got Washington winning this one.
You're betting right.
Okay.
This because the kryptonite for Steve Spagnuolo defenses has always been mobile quarterbacks. They've consistently given them that defense problems, and this guy is as mobile as it gets. And I think his legs will be a problem in this game. I like what they've done as far as adding Laramie Tunsil to shore up their offensive line on the left side, bringing in Deebo Samuel, he has another weapon there. But what people take for granted with the Commanders is they ran the ball very effectively. And that was a big part of his success last year. And I think they're going to continue to be a really good running team. They were like a top 10 running team.
Well, because of him, though, right? The quarterback, right?
Well, but they also ran the ball effectively with their run game. Like their running backs, you look at their numbers, it's pretty good. And so, and when they weren't running the football well, his numbers went down. And so that's the big thing I see that prevents him from falling into a CJ Stroud sophomore slump, is that the Texans didn't have that same kind of run game offensive line success. That was CJ Stroud's downfall. It wasn't that he became a bad player, is that the people around him became bad. And so I like the Commanders in this game.
Yeah, I think all that's fair. I do expect a step back. The one thing I will say, I love everything Sam said about the quarterback, and I think there could be a regression. It'd be interesting. Do you count year 2 for Patrick Mahomes, year 2 as a starter, or year 2 when he blew up his first year as a starter?
Oh, year 2 as a starter, because it's when you've got
when you got the tape, right?
Yeah, the tape's out. So Jeff's got him right now at 1-3 at home. And to me, that's also why, even though the first half is tougher, when you look at this, their tough games are at home.
They are.
They get the advantage of their toughest games are at Arrowhead Stadium.
But they often have a better record on the road than they do at home.
Yeah, they were undefeated at home last year. They were 10-0 at home last year.
I know, but look back. I mean, I think 2 or 3 years in a row before that, they had a better record on the road than they did at home.
That's like one time.
No. I think like 2 or 3 in a row before that, the road record was better. They have some surprisingly, like, what the hell happened losses at home in their time under Andy Reid. But I do think that's a valid point about there being a step back. And I think the Commanders, we're going to find out, like, how good is he? How good is this program as a whole? If they are the NFC East, champions this year, then he's a stud. He's joining the groups of the elites, and it's full bore ahead. And the Commanders are going to be in the playoffs every year. They're going to be, they're becoming on the NFC side like the Bills, Ravens, and Chiefs. Every year you can put those 3 in the playoffs. If the Commanders go this year, you can put the Commanders in every single year. That being said, I think they take the step back. I've got a win. Takes us to the Bills before we get to the bye week. Bills 325 at Buffalo. The Bills are a 2.5-point favorite. Sam?
Yeah, this is the one game the Chiefs are underdogs, and I think your inclination could be to say, well, Patrick Mahomes has been terrific as an underdog because that's all true. But he was underdog against Buffalo last year, and it was the most the Chiefs were outplayed in the regular season. I've got the Bills, and I've got the Chiefs at 7-2 now.
Jeff, do I even need to stop at you to put the L down, or what do you think?
No, you just keep going. Wow, the same reasons.
What record does Jeff have now?
Jeff has the
That'd be
Chiefs
6-4.
currently at 5-4.
5-4.
Is it 5-4? At 5-4.
5-4 when they hit the break. I've also got a loss, so both Sam and I bring him into the depot of the bye week at 7-2. Any regrets at that number at the bye week? Jeff, I mean 5-4, and you had him going 11-6, correct?
Yep.
Yeah. So 6-2.
Heating up late. Yeah.
Heating up late.
I didn't try and match my overall win total because I think this is a different exercise. But
wow,
I think
that's incredibly.
I think the Chiefs are more. I've got them at 7-2 here. I think overall the total body, I would say more likely to be 6-3 than 8-1, even though I've got them at 7-2.
Okay. Interesting way to look at it. All right. We are at the bye week. We will take a break. We will come back and we will break down how they do moving forward after you hear from our friends at Whataburger. Your favorites are back, Kansas City. Now for a limited time at all your KC Whataburger locations, get the mushroom and Swiss burger, 2 large beef patties, Swiss American cheese, fire-roasted mushrooms, and creamy au jus. How about the sweet and spicy bacon burger, 2 large beef patties, American and Monterey Jack cheese, bacon, grilled onions, and topped with sweet and spicy pepper sauce. Or grab the patty melt. Even the honey barbecue chicken strip sandwich. They're all perfect with the Whataburger banana pudding shake. Remember, Whataburger's open 24 hours a day with breakfast served from 11 p. to 11 a. And don't forget, you can get all your Whataburger favorites and more by downloading the Whataburger app with the QR code. Whataburger, proud sponsor of the Red Gold and Bold podcast. Gann Asphalt and Concrete, proudly serving the greater Kansas City area. Nationally recognized full-service paving and pavement maintenance contractor. Locally owned and making parking lot problems disappear in Kansas City since 1994. Let Gann educate you about the most cost-effective way to solve your parking lot problems. With free consultations, no commissions, in-house crews, and every project comes with a written warranty, Gann Asphalt keeps your parking lot safer and helps you and your business avoid unnecessary delays and costly expenses. Find Gann online at GannAsphalt.com or call 816-484-3338. Gann Asphalt and Concrete. One contractor, all things parking lot. All right, we move on to the second half, or at least the post-bye. We move into week 11 here. They go to Denver. Sam, 1.5-point favorites on the road against the Denver Broncos. What do you got here?
I've got the Chiefs, but I actually
are you going to bring them home?
Get the Lombardi ready.
I think it might be time. Jeff's point about like 15-2. You picked them 12-5, didn't you?
It's insane to pick a team that went 15-2 last year. That's won.
No, it's not insane.
12 games, like
nobody
7 years in a row to be 8-2.
Spare me with your straw man argument. Nobody called you insane.
You guys are laughing that I've got them at 8-2.
Well, it's
the toughest part of the schedule.
You won. Just tipped us off.
The Chiefs being 8-2 is laughable.
Before the break, you tipped us off that you weren't trying to match this to your record.
I'm not trying to match this.
Let me be clear. You had them 12-5, correct?
Overall, I think they're most likely to go 12-5.
Most likely to go 12-5. So earlier on, Jeff joked about you having them being 15-2, and you're not trying to get any wins. Yeah, trust me, it's going to get funnier. It's going to get funnier here in a second.
It's still in the ballpark. It's still in the ballpark.
Still in the ballpark. That's fine.
Right.
That's fine.
That Colts game, boy, it's all going to fall apart there.
It's going to get funnier because I had them going 12-5. I am matching their 12-5 record, and I too have them winning this game. So,
what I was going to say is, I think if this game was anywhere else on the schedule, I'd pick the Chiefs for a loss.
Agreed. 100%. That was the thing. Is like, what are you going to do here? I think Denver is definitely going to win one of the two games. I don't know that it really matters whether it's home or road, but Andy Reid is supposed to be badass. It's not supposed to be. He is very good coming out of the bye week. And so this is one of the ones where I say, again, this is a fool's errand to go game by game, right? You're more likely to be right on the record than you are going game by game. But I got to get to 12-5, and so I
So I don't have to get to 12-5.
I leaned on the bye week.
Like we toss out one record last week at the schedule, and so I'm just not going to hold myself to like that exact number. But
you're not a man of character or fiber or morals.
So like in week 10, when we're doing week 11, when we're doing this podcast, I'm going to come back and say, well, you had them winning.
I think I will say, yep. And your classic ability to give yourself 5 different outs, right? Like that's what Sam has done here. Not like, no. Yes, I picked him 12-5. If they go 12-5, he's gonna wave the banner of success. But if we get to 15-2 and they roll to, well, you remember game by game, I had him going 15-2. So he's given himself 2 outs to try to
say I don't have him going 15-2.
Okay. All right.
But to me,
16-1? I don't. He's already got 2 losses, right?
To me, in this game, like Andy being 27-3 when he's the only team that has a bye and the other team does not. I mean, that is just really overwhelming. Now, the caveat is the Broncos actually play Thursday before this, so they're not playing with the normal rest either, and they also get to stay at home. So it's almost a mini bye for them, but technically, that 27-3 is still applicable to this game.
Yeah. Okay. All right, Jeff, you got a loss here?
I have a win.
Okay.
The bye is a big thing, but this is where it gets into the logical part for me. Why I don't do it on a game by game basis? That would be 3 straight losses for me. I don't see them losing 3 straight games in the season.
See, that's what happens. Like, you should just pick what you think happens game by game. That's what I try to avoid.
Yeah. Well, that factors into it, right? If they've lost 2 games, would you pick them the season to lose the next one?
I totally agree with you, but that means you're picking your Broncos game just based on the fact that you're right on the previous 2 games.
But if the
likelihood of that is that's why I don't hold myself to the 12-5 thing.
And that is fine logic. I will not at all knock what you're saying there, Sam. I think that is fine logic, but it is based on that, then you should have the Chiefs 16-1, right? They're favored.
That's right. Yeah, we're just going off like.
Well, if you agree with the odds makers, sure.
I mean, but so yeah. So if you and most people would, I don't think you've got your own point spread you're putting together.
Don't tell me I didn't consider that.
All right, the Colts. They're coming to Arrowhead. Noon game. Chiefs.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. I've got to win too. I did. Okay. I kind of said with Sam that I was ripping him, and I said,
"Okay,
are you going to go 15-2 here?" And I too had him 7-2, and I too have him winning this game. It's a game I had him losing. In fact, I'll tell you, at one point I had him losing at Buffalo bye week, losing at the Broncos, then losing to the Colts. I had a 3-game losing streak with a bye week.
Well, that's the same thing I was talking about.
Well, yes, and I look at that and go, that's not going to happen. And I don't think it's going to happen. I can give you, and I'll give you my reason for why I was considering giving them a loss to the Colts here in a second, but I do think that is part of it as well. I mean, I think looking at each game, but the Chiefs also do right the ship when other teams don't. They do, if you've got losses, and they also spit the bit against teams that they shouldn't, right? So I think it's, I understand what you're saying, Sam, but I think it's also okay to do it the way that the two of us.
Yeah, I mean, it's everyone should have. Everyone should. I actually think it's more enjoyable when we come up with different systems to do these sorts of things, because it's not all just uniformity in this case.
Yes.
And you can't just say, well, the Chiefs win all the openers and they win after the bye, and then but this 3-game losing streak's crazy to think they would not do that, right?
Yeah.
Well, except for the opener's not going to change. Playing after a bye is not going to change. You guys are assuming that, to me, it's more, hey, the roulette wheel just popped up red twice, here comes black. And you don't know that these last 2 red spins are actually accurate.
Okay, that's fine. Colts, like I said, 9.5-point favorites, 12 o'clock. This is a team that put the Chiefs at noon. So I'll put you down for a win, Sam.
Automatic. Noon Chiefs game is like, you are a terrible opponent, and therefore it's an automatic W. Don't even ask me about the noon games.
Okay, Jeff.
Yeah, it's a win. It's a win. Anthony Richardson playing quarterback still. It's a win.
And who is the backup now? The backup is
Daniel Jones, isn't it?
Yeah, Daniel Jones. The Chiefs always spit the bit. There's always a game that you don't see them losing that they lose. So it'll be this one. I'll take the Colts on this one. Don't give me. I'm not going to break it down X's and O's. There's no reason to pick the Colts, other than I think the 7.5 win total is giving them a little bit more credit than I would be giving them. So they do think there's some elements there. I think if they run the ball, I mean, I think they could be one of those teams that squats on the clock and has a chance. But the Chiefs always have trouble against the Colts. They're going to lose a game that nobody sees them losing. So I took the stab here. Like if I go game by game, no, clearly Chiefs win. But somewhere along the line, they're going to lose a game that we don't think they're going to lose, and I'll make it the Colts. So I am not married to that. If they win by 30, I will not be at all surprised. So
no, don't worry. We won't hold you to that at all. We won't ever bring that up.
That's what Tommy's for.
Yeah, exactly. Well, because otherwise, then you just go, and if you think they're going to go 12-5, then you pick them losing to the Bills, Ravens, at Denver, at Chargers. You know, like you just pick the 5 most difficult games, and they probably will go 3-2 against the 5 most difficult games.
No,
that's what they do. They beat most teams they beat most teams. Period.
Yeah.
So and I don't think that's how the season will ultimately go.
The Colts might be how many teams does Mahomes have a losing record against? But the Colts are one of them.
Yeah, crappy things. The whole franchise has problems with the Colts, as I think Chiefs fans are well aware of right now. So
the Eagles too, right? Or Eagles 2-2.
And Mahomes
he's definitely beat the Eagles twice. He won in Philly and he beat him in the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
So he's definitely beaten the Eagles twice, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
He's 2-2.
He's 1-4 against the Bills in the regular season. He's 0-2 against the Colts. Those are the only two. And 1-2 against the Titans.
He's 0-2 against the Colts to beat him in the playoffs.
I'm saying regular season record. Season record. The only 3 losing records I can find is 1-4 against the Bills. Obviously, he's 500 against several teams. He's got a lot of 1-1s in there. But 0-2 against the Colts, 1-4 against the Bills, and then 1-2 against the Titans.
Okay.
Well, the Packers got him right. 0-1 against the Packers.
He's 1-1.
1-1. They won.
Stop jumping ahead, Sam, to that scary game against the Titans later. Come on now. Let's focus on this one right here. Thanksgiving Day at the Cowboys, 3:30 CBS. 5.5-point favorites are the Chiefs. What do you got, Sam?
I've got the Cowboys. I also wanted to pick a game that is an actual upset, and I think this one makes the most sense. It's sort of a Super Bowl to a team that doesn't actually play in Super Bowls anymore. It hasn't in 3 decades. So this, I think, is the most primed to be the game you're not expecting them to lose if they actually lose.
Okay, Jeff?
I have a win, although I'm probably not as confident about it since George Pickens showed up, and we don't know where his head will be at. But when we did the schedule, whatever, a few weeks ago, he wasn't on the roster. So, but I'll go with I'll take the Chiefs over the Cowboys in this one.
I think there's a scenario where the Cowboys go 12-5. Their win total is 7.5, but their Super Bowl odds are 40. They're 41-1, and that to me is, I think, a little bit low off what they did last year. But I mean, I think it speaks to some of their pieces. I think it could be a dangerous game, and I do have a scenario where the Cowboys end up being pretty good, where everybody, is on minds their P's and Q's with the new head coach and trying to get in his good graces and things work well. And then, of course, the Cowboys would lose their first playoff game in that scenario. But I also have a scenario where, Schottenheimer's been out there for a long time as a head coaching candidate. No one's given him the reins. And this is a combustible roster. I also have a scenario where this implodes and goes horribly wrong. And
that's every Cowboys season.
Yes. But when they had Mike McCarthy, they made the playoffs pretty much every year. Okay. So, and I have no idea what Schottenheimer's going to be. Mike McCarthy could ease a ship, right? Like, I mean, you were it's kind of Pete Carroll, in the sense that you're going to get a professional game every time. They're going to have a game plan. They're not going to do stupid things. I don't know what the hell Schottenheimer's going to be. So I'll give the Chiefs a win. Texans, 7:20 Sunday Night Football on NBC. 6.5-point favorites in Arrowhead of the Chiefs. Sam, what do you got?
I've got the Chiefs. We've talked about the Texans, I think, on one of the contending team off-season analysis pieces, but I still don't understand what they're doing on their offensive line. I think it's going to be a big day for, Karlaftis, Jones, whoever develops, Gelati, whoever, Norman Lott, whoever develops out of that group. I just think that the Texans are not putting C.J. Stroud in a great position to succeed this year. So it's not because of Stroud, it's because of the pieces around him, but I question what they're doing right now.
Okay. Jeff.
New offensive coordinator, a whole bunch of new offensive linemen. that tends to not play well in the first season for anybody. And so, yeah, I got the Chiefs winning this one as well. I think that this team may be better a year from now, Houston, but I think they'll win the division, but they will certainly not be anywhere close to what people thought they were going to be at the start of last year.
DeMeco Ryans, if he wins the division this year, he's a stud. Period. End of discussion. He will have got won it 3 years in a row, and there have been questions.
I think he's a stud anyway.
Well, I'm not. I'm not all the way there. I think the first year was really impressive, but a lot of guys look impressive in year one. Year two, he backed it up, but the division was crap. But I don't care if the division's crap. A lot of change to the roster, and if he wins it again, then I'll be all in on DeMeco Ryans. But they're not winning this game. I think they take a step back this year, and that may be 8-8 or 8-9 and 9-8 and division champs, at which I'll still be impressed. But no, I don't see them. They've got too many problems. Too many young guys are counting on the offensive line. Chargers come to Kansas City, noon game, 4.5-point favorite of the Chiefs at home. Sam, how about this one?
I've got the Chiefs again. I've mentioned everything about the Chargers last time, so I've got them at 11-3 now.
Is that like smoke coming off your notepad over there right now on all these hot takes Sam's making there?
I cannot believe that 11-3 is a hot take.
Like a 9-game winning streak.
They did go 15-2.
I just had them losing to the Cowboys.
I forgot that one.
I have them losing
3 losses.
I already have them with more losses than last year.
Yeah.
Did this team not go 15-2 last year?
They did.
And they went 11-6 the year before.
Do I have their record? And they went 14-3 the year before that.
And is there any tangible proof? Is there any tangible proof that their biggest weakness? I mean, definitive proof that their biggest weakness is any better? The answer would be no. Did we also have a conversation that aren't you the guy who has pounded the drum that they won 6 games on their final possession? So I have no problem with what you're building here, but you should not be shocked at our reaction.
Yeah. I'm stunned that you guys are stunned that it's possible the Chiefs could be 11-3.
No, we're just stunned that you're picking him that.
Patrick Mahomes has won 80% of his games. I've got him less. I've got his.
You didn't lead with that. You led with this. The first half of the season is tougher than the second half.
I think the Chiefs are a good team.
Can I next time?
Can I not think the Chiefs are? I have his career winning percentage lowering through 14 weeks.
Well, you were saying that 40 minutes ago. 40 minutes ago, it's like this team is going to be 5-5 probably.
I think we're seeing the world of a Kansas City columnist here. Just so many storylines. Let's keep them all alive here. You know, root for you. Root for the storylines.
There's not a lot of first person in the commentary in the Star, but like I've got his career win percentage is 80%. I've got him at 78% right now.
Yeah. I think Randy Kovitz is wearing a Sam McDowell mask right now.
Again, I don't think anything you're saying right now, in and of itself, there's nothing wrong with anything you're saying. It's just coupled with other things that you have said previously. It's just fun. It's
a tough schedule. It's a tough schedule. I've got them at 11-3.
Yep. I'm fine with that. I have a loss. Or go ahead, Jeff. What do you got?
I have a loss. I think the Chargers will split with them, and they'll lose that game.
Yeah, I think
they're basing this game based on the fact that you had them winning the opener.
Yes.
Yeah.
Incredible game by game logic.
Yeah.
You got to pick one or the other.
I mean,
you don't.
There's literally nothing wrong with that logic. It's just different than yours. But there is absolutely nothing wrong with that logic. Both games will probably.
You're picking this game.
Both games will probably come down to the end.
We're talking about this game in December. You've got the Chargers winning this game.
Both games will be tight. Both games will come down to the end. Both games have coaches that are accomplished coaches. Yeah. Both teams have fine quarterbacks. Picking any combination of wins and losses in these two games, there's nothing wrong with any of them.
Agreed. But you're picking this one specifically because of what you picked in the opener. That's what I'm pointing out.
Going on Sam's line, the Chiefs already wrapped up the AFC West by then, so it's not going to matter to them.
Yeah, they'll be everybody will be benched by this point for on Sam's there. I'll go ahead and put you down for 3 more wins. Listen, no, it's not based upon what happened. It's based upon football overall. Like, what do we think is going to happen? What do I think is going to happen when Andy Reid plays a guy that's one of the better coaches in football who has a quarterback? I think it's going to be tougher sledding here moving forward. And I think there's a decent chance. I think the Chargers betting the Chargers to win the division is probably a good bet from just a math point of it, because I think there are a lot of pieces to like there. So
if you would pick the Chiefs to win or to lose the opener, would you have picked the Chiefs to win this game?
let me say this: you have taken the offensive and put Jeff and I on the defensive on this. So you're saying the Chargers. Let me do to you. Let me do to you.
You want to answer that question?
Let me do to
if
you.
You would pick the Chiefs to lose the opener. Would you pick them to win here?
Probably yes. Okay, and we've established that a number of times, so I don't know why you keep magnifying it. We've acknowledged how we're going about picking it. So you say the Chargers suck. They can't beat the Chiefs.
Is that what I said?
Well, you've got them losing both times.
Teams that lose to the Chiefs suck?
No, I mean, I'm doing to you what I think you're doing to us. You're just going on the offensive and making us defend our position. And I can take, when I've got the whole world of things to attack with, I can start throwing straw man arguments at you and then force you to play defense on it. The Chargers, defense. You don't have winning either one of the games. So there's no world where the Chargers can win this division. They're not a threat, right?
I haven't played defense at all this podcast.
All right, let's move on. Titans. They are at the Titans. Sam, boy, an opportunity here for you, right? 7-point favorites at Tennessee.
Yeah, this is how I get to 12-5. I've got the Titans. It's 12-3.
What?
You're picking the Titans?
No, I've got the Chiefs. It's 12.
Okay, I was going to say. Now you're really going to be on the defensive. So you got them at what? 13-2 or 13-3? 12-3.
12-3.
Yep, he's 12-3. Jeff, you have a win here too.
Yeah,
I have a win as well. All right, Broncos, Denver Broncos. This is Christmas Day, Christmas night, I should say. 7:15 p.m. Chiefs 4.5-point favorite. Sam,
I've got the Broncos. I really think that the Christmas Day game favors the road team, and I think we'll learn that more and more as they start doing these with regularity. I think having all the Christmas stuff to worry about, family over, all that stuff is actually a real distraction on the morning of a game. And we saw the Chiefs not have that distraction and put together about their best offensive game that they had played in a long time, a year ago when they were in Pittsburgh. So I think this is a really tough game. I've got the Broncos, and I've got them at 12-4 now.
Jeff?
I got the Chiefs losing this game.
Okay.
I think that it could be a lot like the Vegas game from a couple of years ago when their pass rush from the Raiders caused them problems, and I could see the Broncos needing this game more than the Chiefs would need it at this stage of the season. So, yeah, I'll go Broncos.
Well, first and foremost, I had the Broncos losing the first one, so I've got them winning this one, right? Let me just under Sam's skin with that and say that's the most important.
No, it's fine. I'm just pointing out that's the way you pick these games.
That is part of the equation. Yes, I think 12-5 is there, and I work backwards from that. I freely admit it, and that is part of how I got to them, and I think it's a fine way to pick them. But I will say, literally everything Sam said is true. I think the road team's got a huge favorite. I think he nailed it on this one. And I think Denver, and I think Jeff's right. I think Denver will probably need this game more so, because I do expect a little bit of a regression from Bo Nix, but I still think they're going to be a tough, salty team. But I think they're going to be fighting in this one. And so I'll give the Chiefs the loss on Christmas Day. That we wrap up at the Raiders. Sam, you currently have the Chiefs at 13-3.
No, I've got them at 12-4.
He lost to the Titans.
12-4.
Broncos. Got him losing to the Broncos. Yep.
Oh, are you going to come home at 12-5 with the loss?
I am. I've got this being
you picked your record.
I've got this a completely meaningless game for the Chiefs. I think that they'll already have the division wrapped up, probably like a number 2 seed, just completely secure, and therefore I've got them because the Ravens and Bills already have the tiebreakers against them. One of those teams is already at 13 wins. You've got nothing to play for. You're resting the starters, and you come home at 12-5.
Okay. By the way,
how about that?
Sam talked
about that. How about that?
How tough the opening, how
the
tough
meltdown.
The first half of the schedule is. He had them going 7-2. It's easier in the second half. He has them going 5-3. Just something to pile away.
Well, I've got a rested starters game, so really I've got them going 6-2.
So you got them going 12-4 and mailing one in.
Yeah.
Okay. Jeff?
I got them beating the Raiders. I think the Raiders aren't going to be good enough to compete with the Chiefs. They'll be better, but they won't be good enough to beat the Chiefs.
Yeah, I think this.
They beat Gardner Minshew's return to Vegas, though.
Yeah,
that is right. That's a big game. It's circled on the calendar for everybody. I will agree that this is a game that on paper looks like it'll be a mail-in game, but I'm not sure it will be a mail-in game because I think the Chargers and Broncos have a pretty good chance of posing a threat to the Chiefs. And so I say they got to bring it, and they beat the Raiders. So there it is. So 12-5 for me, 11-6 for Jeff, 12-5 for Sam. When it's all said and done, everybody picked to what their predicted record was.
Sam, I don't know. It wasn't looking good for Sam for a while there.
No.
I had you guys the whole time.
He okey-doked us.
Yeah, he did. A little rope-a-dope. Listen, if you are a fan of the Red, Gold, and Bold podcast, support us by supporting our great sponsors like Gann Asphalt and Concrete. Free consultations, no commissions, in-house crews. Every project comes with a written warranty. If your parking lot needs any kind of work, or maybe you need an entire parking lot built, they do the biggest jobs in the city. They can do your job. GannAsphalt.com. One contractor, all things parking lot. Brought to you by our friends at Suede Cannabis. If you haven't heard, Best Me Wellness is now Suede Cannabis. Find the location nearest you and shop online at suedecannabis.com and our friends at Whataburger. For a limited time right now, get the mushroom and Swiss burger, the sweet and spicy bacon burger, the honey barbecue chicken strip sandwich, and my personal favorite, the patty melt. They are open 24 hours a day, serving breakfast 11 p to 11 a. Of course, you can wash anything down with that banana pudding shake from our friends at Whataburger. For Jeff Chadiha from the NFL Network, Sam McDowell from the Kansas City Star, I'm Soren Petro saying thank you very much for joining us here on the Red, Gold, and Bold podcast.